What's your rank, Marco?
Don't have one, bro. You have to be you have to be at least maybe like 6'1" or something to get it. At 6k is not enough.
6k is not enough for a rank in EU?
Nope.
Wow.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, it's not.
I thought they just give everyone rank.
No, it cuts off at 5k.
Yeah, it stops at 5,000.
But it's just insane that, yeah, if you're 6,000 MMR, you've not got a rank.
So I passed you.
Yep. Rank-wise.
Yeah.
Perks of NA.
Yeah, man. The true server that you want for flexing your Immortal rank, I think. Other than maybe like Australia or something, I don't know.
What's your MMR?
It's now 5'8".
Okay. Oh, I'm close.
What are you?
It's 5'6'3". I just need to win a few games.
That's huge. I need an arms race. I need a co-host arms race. Welcome to New Mets Podcast, episode 80. Kind of a landmark episode. It's a multiple of 10, so that's got to be worth something. A landmark ding too for Adam. We'll come to that in a second because Marco's just kindly reminded me that. Wait, have we got 50,000 unique downloads or?
It's about 60 or 70 downloads off.
Oh, really? So by the time this hits the airwaves, we will have, because I don't think I'm going to be able to... Oh no, this will be a normal release on Friday, but we're recording this on Wednesday. So yeah, that day will push us over the top, I imagine, Thursday. So yeah, 50,000 unique downloads. That's pretty cool. 80 episodes. Let's go to How Are Games. I'll start with Adam this time. Adam, what's been going on? How have your games been? What's happening? Big news.
I hit Immortal. It happened.
Whoa!
Hoggies.
You need some music for this.
Pod legitimacy attained.
Has there ever been a podcast with 2 Immortals on it? Has anybody ever done that in the history of Dota?
In the history of Dota.
I think every podcast that a pro makes, when he has a pro guest, it's usually...
Yeah, but who wants to listen to a pro when you could listen to pubbers?
Yeah, I've been in the trenches. I've been grinding.
Yeah, this is a podcast by pubbers for pubbers. Yeah, exactly.
All it took was, I don't even know, 4 years?
Yeah.
I don't know how long I've been playing seriously. I took a long break from ranked when I was at 3.3k, and then at some point I was like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Honestly, was it literally the removal of the random button that you went from 3k to Immortal?
I don't know.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think I've been working on it. I might have been at 4k by the time the random button got removed. I don't even remember the timeline because they stopped tracking MMR on Dota Buff.
Yeah.
What do you think your biggest improvement's been? Or the biggest reason you feel like you've been able to climb so fast? Because it has been a relatively fast climb.
Yeah, I'm trying to... Oh, my spreadsheet didn't have MMR for Season Dan. Let's see, the biggest thing? That's interesting. I think I just cast spells.
Yeah, I was going to say fucking
itemization. I feel like it's just spell casting and limiting deaths, and then macro thoughts about the game. Just where to be, what to do, active thinking, because I'm not the most mechanically skilled player. I'm also old, so I can't keep up with all the young lads like Marco.
I think, macro movement, like you said, because even just when we played that game yesterday, when you were playing Legion Commander, even in that game, I was like, I kept thinking, you kept turning up in spots. If it was me, I would have taken like 5 more seconds to get there, or like when we'd lose a fight or something, and I'm like, oh man, it'd be great if someone was cutting the wave, and then you're like cutting the wave mid. I was like, that's like, this kid's going places.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just it might be just a feel thing, just from playing. I don't know.
It kind of has to be, because when you start playing at such a fast pace, you need to just kind of subconsciously be thinking 1-2 steps ahead in terms of where you want you to be, the creeps to be, your allies to be, and all that. And it's hard to, I mean, as you get better, that just becomes more natural and just comes faster. And like you say, start being in the right place at the right time.
It's one of those classic, when someone posts on the Reddits, like, oh, I got Immortal or something, and then the question's like, how? It's always mildly interesting to see these very, sometimes long and crazy in-depth answers that are sometimes produced. But yeah, often it's like simple things, small adjustments that then, create a new tree of thought and play that develop your game a lot. It could just be like a small little thing, like you say, just like a feel thing that suddenly changes the way you play, like, quite drastically.
Do you feel like you've abused the meta successfully? I see you've got some
a bit.
juicy slaughter greens on your Dota buff.
I was going to say it's a real shame that originally I was going to do it purely with support, and I would say like 85% of it was with support. But then since they changed it just recently back to one number, I've been playing a little bit of offlane. So there are some Slardar offs. Some of those are Slardar 4 games. There's a couple Legion Commander games, 3. But yeah, looking at it, I mean, it's primarily Lich and Enchantress and Slardar. I got a Nyx Assassin win. That kind of started the because was it last week when I almost got there? I think last week was when I was sad because I was really close to being one game away, and then I lost, and then I went down to 0%. I went below it. I remember. Yeah, and so then I had a Nyx Assassin game where I felt like I didn't do anything, and I won. One of those games where you just get carried and you feel like you didn't do anything. And I was like, okay, the luck has started. Here we go. And then I ripped off, like, I think pretty much about a 10-2 streak up to Immortal. So sometimes you just got to ride the wave.
Yeah, man. I can't remember the question I was going to ask. Oh, yeah, it wasn't really a question. It was more just, I remember the first massive climb you did with Crystal Maiden and Lich. That was like another crazy, that was really rapid. Binked like 10 badges, I'm sure, something like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like you and Stan were both? Oh,
this was like when we started the pod, I think.
You started the pod and you're like
episode 1,
and then ended the season Divine 2 or something in like half a season, maybe something crazy.
I think I was in Divine already, but I had just done it.
The first bink you had, I think, was Ancient 6 or Ancient 7. It was like,
oh really? Dang, yeah. The difference a year makes.
Yeah. Imagine being an ancient player, Adam.
No, I feel like, if I'm remembering, because we were talking about it, and part of it I attribute it to is I didn't play ranked for so long. Because I just played all random and party games for like 2 years. And so I just played and I was getting better, but I wasn't actually playing ranked.
Yeah.
So then when I came back, it was pretty good to climb at first.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened that Lich and Crystal Maiden were pretty decent at the time. And I binked Immortal off of a Lich game. Very fitting. I wouldn't want it any other way.
That is fitting, to be fair. Yeah. Well, yeah, congrats for getting Immortal. And I think this episode 80, 50k unique downloads, and now double Immortal pod probably means I should dust off the old Reddit accounts and get some advertisement out there. Who knows?
That's true, actually.
It's been a little while. I feel like I've slacked a bit.
We're still here. Because, last time you did that, was like 50 episodes ago. Maybe TI pods.
It was TI, I think.
Pods or something.
Yeah, I don't think I've done it since TI. But yeah. Marco, how have your games been?
Smiley face. Been terrible. I'm the polar opposite to Adam's flying streak. I'm on a slippery slope. The weekend was particularly rough. So I was a win off breaching the 6,000 level, and I started at that point at the start of the weekend, and now I'm like net -6. And so it's a long way away. It feels rough. So there are maybe a couple games to mention. It was grim because my first game I was super positive, super hyped, but it was a 50-minute kind of slogfest on my Wyvern, and it was kind of a crushing loss. 50 minutes. That's a long game. Oh, felt rough. And that was the first loss of 4 in a row. one of which was a complete. Oh, actually, the waster wasn't in that one. All right, there was one interesting loss actually for the listeners. So we were crushing the game, and we had won the game. I've never been in this situation where you're killing the enemy heroes in the base, and you're kind of taking tier 4s, fountain farming a little bit, and life's great. I just lost 2. And when I'm in that point, I was like, oh, this feels good. All right, we're back on 1-2. That's not too bad. Like, pick it up again. The enemy mid laner even leaves the game. Like, this is the state of the game you can imagine. Enemy mid laner's left, like, oh yeah, this game's in the bag. We're going to win. It's all cool. This is 40 minutes into the game. Fast forward 10 minutes and we lose. And after 5 minutes, Lena's almost about to get an abandon, must realize that the game's still going on. So he's like, all right, I'll get back in. And we just basically throw it from that position somehow. That makes 0-3 and then finished the day 0-4. I think that was Saturday. It was a pretty rough afternoon. And then Sunday was equally bad, including like one insta loss from Griefers and then a few other crappy games. It's been a bit rough.
Feels bad. Yeah.
My Centaur's doing well though. In unranked, I'm on a 3-win streak. My Centaur is an 80% win rate hero, and I'm thinking I might start throwing it into the ranked pool. Been enjoying that because I saw Asta play it really strong in the Summit, I think, or the Minor or something like that. So he's a hero on my watch list. And then
that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about ranked. It's a bit of an awkward situation.
You're gonna have to play with Adam. You have to get some Immortal ranks going.
I really want to. I need to play with Party. It's kind of despairing having dysfunctional teams.
Yeah, you and Adam lane, and then at least you're
in safe hands.
I need to.
I don't know if Adam would do that
Marco.
at the moment, to be honest. But
you need to what, Adam?
I need to catch you. That's the next thing.
So maybe we party together forever.
He used to be when we started. I was the 4K, 3K scrub, and you were the unattainable god, and now God is bled. And
I know.
He's actually proven to be mortal.
It's funny that I used to just have this pure carrot motivation only. Like they start introducing immortal badges and stars and ranks, and it's the carrot is real. But now the fucking stick of Adam is whipping my bum. So I best get moving.
Yeah. My games. I mean, I haven't really played much. I've actually been like super busy over the last 2 weeks in the evenings, which is kind of unusual because usually I'm a lot less so. But games I have been able to get in, been okay. I played a pre-pod game, which is usually dangerous for me to play a pre-pod game. Usually goes really bad. But this one was fine. OD win. Not much to report. OD against Bristleback Slark and Razor is pretty good.
Me and you played that fun unranked.
Oh yeah, that's true. We against Game Leap's very own Speed Gaming, much love, and some other guy that's famous or something.
Some semi-pro UNC
semi-pro
player.
Right?
He's like a rank, 3-digit rank UNC.
Yeah, that game was actually so sad. We should have won that game.
Yes, that was a sick. That was a
good game. 53 minutes. Yeah, I mean, we're against a Huskar with Armlet, Halberd, SMY, Satanic, Treads. It's just so grim. He's got like 6k HP and a Satanic active.
If you doomed him, it would last for like 4 seconds or something.
Yeah, it's just grim playing against a Huskar like that. It's like literally so hard to kill. I'm sure we'll use like Black Hole, Laguna Blade, Snapfire all on him, like solo him, and he just doesn't die. And then he just presses his disarm spell and like armlet toggles, and it's like, okay, whatever. I guess we just lose now. That's pretty much how that one ended, I think.
The worst was we were kind of holding throne, and our Enigma with Refresher somehow did 1 or 2 black holes that just completely whiffed. This is 50 minutes into the game as well, super intense, super long.
Yeah. the Enigma refresher orb play did not work out well. Literally just the first black hole was on 0 heroes and the second black hole was on 1. This is when 5 heroes are hitting throne. It's like, come on, bro. It's literally like, it's harder to miss than to, it's easier to get 3 heroes than it is to get 1 or 0 heroes, but he somehow managed it. But there you go. That's Enigmas for you. Today's episode, though, a bit of a fun one because
I have one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Did you notice my Meepo game?
Oh yeah, I saw that. It was unranked. Is that random or something? I randomed
Zeus first, and then some guy on the team picked Meepo, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to pick this." And he's like, can anybody take it? And I tanked it for the team. And then as our phone exploded, I just wanted to say, "Hey guys, just remember I didn't pick this. I got it traded to me. I tried my best." And I don't think I got reported, but it was, it was bad.
Yes.
Also because it was last phase pick Meepo against a team that already had Axe, Dazzle, Troll, and Rubik. So it was like already a bad Meepo game.
Yeah. And
then they finally picked Void Spirit and it's like, this is actually just impossible. Also it was safe lane Meepo, so...
Yeah, and also you've got a Medusa on your team, which
Medusa picked that off lane last after we already had the Zeus and the Meepo, so I don't know. It was a doomed game, but I had a lot of respect for Meepo players.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, second unattainable god of Dota. Pod topic though. Quite a fun one because of the landmark nature of the pods. Inspiration in Dota 2 or / favourite things about Dota 2, whatever, I'll decide the title at a later date. But basically, we're just going to talk about the best aspects of the game, the things that made us fall in love with the game, start playing it, things that inspired us in Dota to get into the game. That's basically it, like what captured our imagination, any defining plays or defining games or memories that you have in Dota. No particular reason for this one, although there is a lot of talk. I don't know if you'd call it negativity, but there's definitely a lot of
pessimism?
Yeah, pessimism about Dota's future for sure at the moment. So maybe this is a nice respite from that, of the content that has been flying out in the last couple of months about how Dota's player base and direction is doomed.
What we fell in love with the game to begin with.
Yeah, let's remember why we're all here.
And now why we're salty. Kappa.
Yeah,
edit that out.
What will be lost? What have we lost forever and can never recapture?
Well, that'd be about 8,000 hours.
Yeah. Think about how good we'd be at the game of life if we didn't sink all this time into the game of Dota 2. There you are. Well, I mean, where do we start, really? I'd maybe start in the first place, which is what made us start playing Dota, fall in love with the game, however you want to say it. Marco, you're the OG player here that's been playing the game for the longest, so... Maybe you should start, because Dota 1, right?
Yeah, so for me, it started far back in the days of Dota 1. So it is about 11 years ago or something that I first came across it. And it was like Brother Joe. He's been on the pod a couple of times. I think him or some of his friends were playing Warcraft 3, but then just happened to come across the custom game Dota that was being played on Warcraft 3's platform, and that is how basically every Dota 1 player found it. And it's pretty cool how good the game was that IceFrog and Gwincy or whatever were making just via the custom map of Warcraft 3 and the complexity they were able to generate from the start. Because when Dota 1 first made, they still had a hell of a lot of heroes and items off the bat. It's incredibly impressive. And so, yeah, I remember Joe getting into it, and then he's naturally shares it with me. And I remember playing some 1v1s with our cousin. The first time I ever played Jakiro, My cousin Alex was playing Rasta. We're doing this 1v1 mid, and we're all just rotating around like kind of a LAN, just 1v1ing each other and playing the game out. And then I started playing against bots, and then the community's just developing a bit, and public matches start being able to happen because there's enough players and whatnot. And I mean, I was young back then, and definitely I was pulled in by the fantasy, flashy, cool heroes. I was a big World of Warcraft fan when I was younger, so there's a lot of similarities there with all these Warcraft 3 heroes, all these cool spells. So that definitely drew me in, and then the complexity and the mastery of it and wanting to be better and the competition. Honestly, it's not unfair to say it's this ultimate game, and people have said it before. It is kind of the ultimate game. It requires a massive steep learning curve, but then it has got so many elements that is so satisfying. The teamwork, the complexity, individual skill, team skill. So yeah, never look back.
Yeah, and would you say that was pretty representative of a lot of Dota 1 players? It's so probably, right? I mean,
yeah, it has to be really, and
it has to
probably
be, yeah.
Similar reasons that everyone does get into it and start getting hooked. I mean, I'd be interested to hear your two thoughts on it.
Yeah. Before we jump out of Dota 1 though, and go to Adam or me, it's so interesting that, like you say, it's a custom map from Warcraft 3. It's like kind of incredible. You think about custom games now in the games that I've played, say like StarCraft or Dota 2, custom maps are great and all, but nothing like Dota that we know now could ever be born from it. Maybe like auto chess, but it's like, what's auto chess compared to Dota 1? It's like so remarkable that they're able to make something ultimately with a legacy that far exceeds Warcraft 3 out of a Warcraft 3 custom map. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy that it must be so good to draw in that many people, the custom map, because even standalone games don't get the kind of traction that Dota 1 got, and it was a game within a game. It was like an awkward custom map that's like not even the main attraction.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Like you say, even auto chess, the original aspects of that game is somewhat limited. It's chess somewhat at the end of the day. And to think what's been spawned from just a few people going on a custom game that anyone could go on and creating some structures and creating some like rules and systems of creep and items and levels. And it's now morphed into Dota, League, Horn, Blizzard have copied it. And it didn't exist before then. It's not even like, oh, Blizzard get a team together.
There's a new genre.
Yeah, they literally made a new genre of game, just a few people. It's not even like Blizzard making some other RTS or some other fantasy game. Just a few people on their own in some custom map. It is bonkers when you take a step back.
Mm.
And even auto chess, I mean, is born out of Dota mechanics, right?
Yeah, it's like the spells and all the heroes.
Now it's been translated to a standalone, and then like League has one, and even like Hearthstone has Battlegrounds, kind of the same type of deal. But yeah, it was all kind of still built off of Dota mechanics, which are so deep.
I think the fact that you've got all these heroes and there is such little overlap of skills and spells. So yeah, you might have a couple hexes that exist in the game or a couple impales, but the magnitude of different spells that, I mean, I guess they came from Warcraft 3 engine, so that is the inspiration, I guess. But you still had to think of a hell of a lot and put them all together and put the hero together. And yeah, so you did have some ingredients to start with, but it is just mind-blowing that they were able to create this product from near scratch.
And then moving forward, Adam, you're the next to pick up Dota, but you don't pick up Dota 1. It's Dota 2, and not quite in its incarnation either. It's a bit of time before you find Dota. How was that for you, and what was it about Dota 2 then, in its earlier stages, that drew you in?
Yeah, so I started playing Dota December 2012. That was my first game on my first account. And God, that was so long ago. I was a senior in college. It's crazy. It's almost 8 years. It wasn't my first MOBA. I played League for about 40 hours or so just to try it out. And I didn't care for it. Yeah. And I all of college, like StarCraft 2 was my thing. And I really fell in love with that because of how in-depth it was, how punishing it was, and how deep it went, and how it was like 1v1, it was all on you. And then, it must be right where HOT started to come out, right? Here, or the Swarm, Heart of the Swarm?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
That's where I stopped. And then I was looking for another game. Somebody suggested Dota 2, and I played it, and I played Lich for like 40 straight matches to learn, and yeah, I fell in love with it. And it's like with any of I think the big 3 games that I've like delved into in my life were StarCraft 2 and Magic the Gathering and Dota 2, and with all 3 of them, they're incredibly complex and incredibly deep in their mechanics, and I like something that you can sink like thousands of hours into and still be learning.
Yeah.
And like the constant progression and getting better. And it's good. I mean, it's my competitive outlet too. So I like just the depth of everything. That's what I fell in love with. And the game was still getting, 2012 was early enough that they were still patching in heroes. Yeah. So it wasn't up to parity yet. And it was in the Source 1 client. And I kind of missed that client, to be honest. There's a lot I liked about it. But, yeah, I played a lot on that first account, probably about 300 matches. And then I was like, okay, that was my tutorial. I'm going to start off a new one now that I feel like I feel comfortable with the game. So I'll have like win rates that are accurate, I guess.
It's interesting contrasting the starting points. So say how Adam starts, he's in uni or something, and he can appreciate the depth and all that. And I remember, because I was just way younger, what drew me in massively was more just the raw. I never thought about the depth until late, and it was more just the flash, not necessarily flashy, but a bit more mechanical stuff, like how I used to always be a mid player. I used to near only play mid. Even at the start of Dota 2 and midway through, love my Storms, Corpse Pucks, say. And even going further back, I remember I'd play against bots when I first played Dota 1 just because I wanted them to auto 5-man push middle so I could get this wombo echo slam on them. I just found it so satisfying. Like, obviously, there's no genuine...
You want to kill Marco bot over and over again.
Yeah, there's literally nothing impressive, but I'm just this young kid wanting to get a 5-man echo. And I remember I did that so often. Just wait, farm 20 minutes. The enemy team, without doubt, 5-man mid at some point, because they're just bots, and just get a slam echo. So satisfying. And then it's even like Shadow Fiend. I'd never play that hero anymore, but you'd see the Yap Heads videos, and I'd like to play that hero and play the flashy kind of stuff. But over time, my interest has definitely gone more to the complexity, and I've made a note how it's the macro aspects and the team aspects that I way prefer now. But I guess a lot of people will be really drawn to that more individual mechanical stuff.
I do remember the first thing Dota related I ever saw was on Reddit, and it was from TI2, and it was the play with the stolen. It was like Navi against IG, right? Yeah. Is that who it was? With the stolen Black Hole and Ravage.
We need Matt Marsden, KMM to
Patience from Zoe.
Patience from Zoe.
And see, it's just that, was so into StarCraft. I was already into esports. Like I understood the commentators and stuff. And hearing all the hype that was surrounding that, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I had no idea what anything was going on, all the spells and stuff, but you could hear the crowd, you could hear the commentators and be like, that's actually pretty intriguing.
Yeah, it's interesting what, Marco, you mentioned about how just really having no appreciation of the depth and complexity and synergies and stuff, and purely just liking flashy, big, single moment spells, or even just liking... Yeah, or even just something even simpler, like just liking the heroes as characters and stuff like that. It's stuff like that I feel like is easy to forget when we're all just like sweaty Dota spammers who are like trying to climb MMR. Even now, though, for a lot of Dota players in like lower or even that just don't bother with rank, stuff like that's still like the reason they play, I would say. For some people, it's obviously a natural progression of the game. As it's really old now, people get better and they become like more hardcore. Especially in Dota 1 and like the early days of Dota 2, those things were super important. Also, for Adam, I was going to say, your story's kind of probably the most common entrance point into Dota 2, that sort of 2012 time, TI2, TI3. Isn't that when Dota sort of gained the most players?
It wasn't in the closed beta. Like, I didn't have to get an invite or anything. I could just download it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it was probably the winter after TI2 was when...
Yeah.
Which was a good time to get in.
Yeah, for sure.
Go
on, Marco, sorry.
No, I'm going to ask you a question after you've made a point.
Well, my point was just going to start transitioning towards me as like the most recent, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Whether you want to field your question now or after I've...
So I'd be interested to hear where your inspirations and motivations come from, because I do remember you first starting, because you were in uni and you're talking to me about playing some bot games or whatever, or first dabbling with it. I do remember you being like, oh, so maybe you didn't say overhyped, but being like, oh, I'm not going to get into this, or like...
Well, didn't you introduce him to it?
Yeah, because Stan knew it a lot through me and brother Joe, but was playing StarCraft still. Meanwhile, I was kind of started committing to Dota.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I came so late, even compared to Adam, so I didn't start playing until March 2017. So that's like insanely late, considering I like do a podcast and I'm like mildly addicted to Dota. It's funny that I've been around not that long, but that just goes to show how sort of ridiculously dominant Dota is as a game in people's lives, that when playing for 3 years isn't very long.
Yeah.
And 3 years and hitting Divine, that's nothing to sneeze at either.
Yeah. It's funny, I played StarCraft longer than Adam, and StarCraft 2 is definitely... And this will probably trigger Marco because I say it sometimes, but StarCraft 2 is still the game it's like your first love. So StarCraft 2 is maybe the dearest in my heart.
Yeah.
And it's the game that I like really felt was, this is like the pinnacle of, like, RTS was the pinnacle. And that's also just because I loved RTS anyway, like Age of Empires 2 and like Red Alert 2, 2 games that I was super into as well. But so I would say that the fundamental key factor that got me into Dota was simply the fact that I could play it with my friends. Yeah. That was literally it. That was like almost 100% of the reason why I tried it. Because obviously I knew that Marco and Joe played this game and they played it for ages. And it's really interesting. I have some memories of Marco explaining to me Dota drama, particularly post TI5.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what any of it meant, but he like talked to me for an hour about like,
so there's this guy, EG kicks Alley.
Yeah, he was like, there's this guy called PPD, and I was like, okay. And he was just like talking to me about this drama. It was like on some walk or something.
Yes, I remember in summertime after TI.
Yeah. So, but I had like no idea what was going on. And it's so funny because I used to be on the other side of the complete jargon conversations that are completely just gibberish if you don't know Dota, around like the family table with it having 3 cousins that play Dota. Marco, brother Joe, and cousin Alex that have all been mentioned. And then it's weird to suddenly like be on the other side now and to actually like produce a podcast which is just pure gibberish.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the team aspect was like the biggest thing because I played StarCraft for a long time, and it's such a like solo game, even just beyond the actual gameplay. It's like the client is there's no community in the client, and
the chats only exist for you to get flamed after a game by your enemy.
And it's the only community aspects were like watching tournaments, which I like loved. I never went to any live tournaments, just like, watching on Twitch or whatever. So then I was like, I'll give Dota a chance. I don't think I'll like it. Like Marco said, when I first got into it, I was like, this game is kind of like a casual game compared to StarCraft, whatever. Try it. It might be like fun to just like mess around with friends. And then I'd say what clicked, there's a few moments that I remember. The firstly being just simply the excitement of the discovery of it. Like I remember when I played maybe like 5, I have no idea how many games, but like a number of games. And there were still tons and tons and tons of heroes that I'd never seen. I had no idea what they did. And I just randomly click on Lycan. I was like, I've never heard of this hero before. Read his spells, and I'm like, that's so interesting. Like, what a weird, interesting set of spells. I go in demo mode. This is so bizarre, crazy, unique. And there's like 100 more of them. And I was like, that's kind of insane. And then I played an unranked game with Lycan and like whatever, maybe 1 or something. The discovery, the potential for me to like discover like all these heroes is kind of crazy. Another moment was my first kill with a skill shot. I played a bunch of Lich and I didn't really like it. Maybe like 5 games, not the 40 of Adam. I wasn't like a natural. I didn't find my hero straight away. It took me a while. But I played Wind Ranger, and the first time I got a kill with Power Shot, I was like, that was cool. That was the first thing where I actually, like Marco's Echo slamming bots. That felt good as a play. When I was playing Lich, my brain was hurting, like, I have no idea what's going on. What do I do? Nothing felt particularly satisfying because everything's like point and click. Suddenly there's this skill shot and I was like, yeah, that was really fun. That was very cool and I feel like a god. And then another important thing I'd say is Meepo, because when I found out about Meepo, this hero that was 4 different, or 5 if you have Ags, different individual dudes, that if any one of them dies, they all die. It was like the bridge between StarCraft and Dota that made me... I was like, this hero I could spam. Because I'm kind of like, have an addictive personality in the sense that even when I played StarCraft 2, I literally never played the campaign, only played matchmaking as Terran for the entire time that I played it. I'd like played like 1 game of Protoss against bots like once and never touched Zerg in my entire life. So I have like the most narrow
appetite, kind of.
Yeah, narrow appetite. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I could play the same 1-1-1 Banshee Invis opening like 20 games in a row.
The 1-1-1.
Yeah. And
it's
then,
just like me. I was like, I'll do Broodlord Infestor every game.
Oh my god, you're literally you're why you're why StarCraft died, Adam. If you're playing Brood Infestor.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I suppose that's pretty much it. They're like the key factors, and then yeah, I suppose another piece of the puzzle is like the competitive scene, but that came a bit later. That's like not why I played Dota. But if it wasn't an esport, I wouldn't play it because, in terms of inspiration, like we've been saying, it's like really cool to see how well the game can be played and have that showcased in such a incredible way.
Yeah, that's kind of just how it, like with StarCraft, I would get up and watch GSL games during the middle of the night, or like subscribe so I could watch GSL games. And you would always like learn new builds and see the little tiny meta differences, or maybe if you're playing against a certain opponent, a certain build just specifically for them. And the same thing transfers to Dota, because you can always be watching player replays or learning new ways to play a hero, new item builds, it just like constantly cycles upon itself. And you can always be learning.
The accessibility of the highest level games is so underappreciated. If you think about
unparalleled.
Yeah, that is definitely true. And if you think about the content, the thousands of hours of YouTube content that's consumed through Dota, and think about how 95% of it will be taken from those high level games where you can just watch every replay of every pro and every tournament, and it's all kept in some server. You can watch all those previous tournaments and all those replays and all the live games. That because we used to say it about StarCraft as well, like how you wish you could watch some of the pros play.
It was impossible to get any replays.
They had replay packs. You could buy them from people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even the top players, like the top Korean players, would just play a barcode, and it was like they play a new barcode account like every month, and no one knew who was who. It's like you could never see pros play pubs in StarCraft.
It's so enlightening being able to do that, and there's so much trickle down effects from being able to do that, and just from a spectator or just entertainment point of view, it is so fun, so good. And like I say, all that YouTube content, for example, so enjoyable, and 95% of it derives from that accessibility.
Yeah.
Another point. Oh,
well, go on, make your point, and then I'll
I was just going to echo your team aspect.
That's point. Exactly what I was going to underline. I was about to say that is the best. That's the biggest reason for the most people.
Yeah,
is the fact that the game is literally designed to be played in a team with friends. And yeah, go on. You are.
So I mean, I was just thinking about my own experience, and so jumping ahead in time with StarCraft, I like you. I played it, and like you, I understand the frustrations and the pain and the brutality of this 1v1. It's so relentless to try and climb the StarCraft ladder, so relentless, and at the end of the day you sit back and go, Jesus Christ, you need some saving grace of just humans and other friends and people to kind of just
to blame
with, to blame, yeah, just anything to get you out of that cage that is 1v1 StarCraft. Then I was thinking about my timeline of playing, and my solo drives, I've only ever had like 2.5, honestly. So when in Dota 1, I was a massive solo. Like I wanted to climb, I wanted to play IC Cup and get high rank, and I didn't care about team play or anyone else. It'd just be me and brother Joe. But then when I think about my Dota 2 career, it was always party games. And so I was like Adam, where I had an MMR unranked, but I wouldn't play solo ranked ever. And then I did it once, maybe at the end of college, and climb like 500, 600 MMR. Then all through university, again, just want to play party games. That's where the most fun derives from. I know, okay, Immortal badges come out. That's a bit of a carrot. Let's do that. And then even now, when I think about games, I'm like, fuck me, give me just team and players and friends. And that team aspect, I realize is just so enjoyable, and probably has to be the vast majority of people's strongest pulls, one of the strongest pulls for sure. And the team aspect is just so strong.
Definitely. Just to put my own perspective on that as well, it's interesting because when I think about the playing solo ranked in StarCraft versus playing solo ranked in Dota, I way prefer the StarCraft playing solo ranked in StarCraft. The problem is there's nothing else. Like you said, there's no, I don't feel like do I want to play a game? Do I not? I'll play an unranked party game. Like it doesn't exist in StarCraft 2, so you've got to be like a crazy fiend to, like, I used to want to just play ranked solo like every day, and I'm just not that person anymore because I'm older mainly, I guess. Like when you're like 15 or something, you're just like, yeah, I'll be a pro, whatever, just like play StarCraft all day. But now with Dota, it's like, if I'm ever like, I don't know if I want to play like some hardcore, try-hard ranked game, which is an ever-increasing, that seems to be the case ever more. Dota's just, like you say, it's designed to be played like in a team with friends, like I don't know if I'd go as far as to say in a casual way, but like in a team environment where it's a bit more forgiving. Because the baseline experience of Dota in a party is so much higher than most other competitive esports. So yeah.
I think at the end of the day, if you're ever going to have a successful esport, it has to be team orientated. Or if you want it to be genuine success, it needs to be team orientated. There can be success if it isn't. StarCraft, say, Rocket League has some success, has some scene with some 2v2 plays or whatever. But I think the biggest value, biggest love and passion will come naturally when there's more team play.
Maybe. I don't know, like Fortnite's pretty big.
Fortnite's pretty big.
It's not 1v1 though.
Yeah.
What is Fortnite?
There's like two
it's
duos
Battle
or
Royale.
something.
So it's like it's still like a group thing.
Oh, really? I thought it was like PUBG, like solo.
It is.
Oh, you can do squads. You can do. I think you can do 1s, 2s, and maybe 4.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But it's still like consumed as a. It's not like a 1v1 thing, you know.
Yeah. It's definitely not 1v1. It's like It's a big group. So yeah.
I think esports is kind of going. Because the only model they have to go on is like our major sports leagues, you know, in IRL sports. So they see like the franchise model of like with like Overwatch League or CS:GO competitive
or DPC 2021.
Right. So like with a table or with franchises, like entrenched franchises, and as it's becoming more and more regulated. Transfer rules,
but
et cetera.
From the perspective of a game and the interest, the complexity and depth of a game, naturally when there is 5 players on each team as opposed to a 1v1, the potential and the depth, I think, does multiply. Like StarCraft, it's very mechanical, very intense, very strategic as well. But the fact is 1v1, it is going to have a cap in terms of the depth and complexity to the game itself, whereas with Dota, 5 heroes on each team, all the different heroes you can play. There are so many more factors, permutations of plays and blah 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 blah.
It is so much more satisfying to coordinate a team fight combo than anything I ever pulled off in StarCraft as a solo person.
Mate, nothing better than EMPing High Templar of Ghost. Oh.
Okay.
Nothing better than being a Protoss 200 army. But yeah. I turn this into a StarCraft podcast now. But
it is so similar. I mean, I think it's a pretty common story for a lot of players.
Oh yeah, definitely. So many
exposure to some like Blizzard product, at least, whether it be Warcraft or StarCraft or
I do like what I would echo what Marco said. The Dota's so much more complex and has so much more depth than StarCraft 2. If we're just going to really batter this comparison to death, StarCraft just more mechanical, basically. And the best players have to be like I'm not sure. I genuinely felt like I was capped in StarCraft from a physical perspective. Like
mechanically.
My APM was like 95. And every single person I played, APM was like 160 minimum. Anyway, we don't need to go down that road. It's not really what this pod's on.
To hammer StarCraft more, if you watch Stan type, you think, how the hell did this guy ever get beyond gold in StarCraft? Fucking one finger typing.
And playing Terran too.
The most optimal hotkey setup of all time.
Economy of movement.
Yeah. So where to go next? I don't really know. Perhaps like defining memories or something. We've kind of already gone over a lot of them. We've kind of mismatched or mashed together all of the topics. So I suppose if anyone wants to just come in with like...
Well, this whole thing is born out of TI4. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for TI4.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. That's kind of a wild story. Well, kind of a interesting story.
Yeah. It's already been a story before, but it's like I met Brother Joe in Seattle at TI4. He just happened to sit down. I got a seat open next to me. He asked if he could sit there, and then we just struck up a friendship. We were both 4K at the time, I think. Yeah. So it's like, hey, we're the same. And we would talk about the game, and I wasn't immediately put off by his opinions because there's some people that they talk they know a lot, but they actually aren't saying the right things at all.
Yeah, as Cousin Alex, if you've ever talked to Cousin Alex about Dota, that's like...
I was like, I actually agree with everything Joe's saying right now. So either we're both just completely wrong, or he's got the right idea. Yeah, so even if I hadn't have been on the end, because I went with like three other guys, our pilgrimage to Mecca, pretty much. If I hadn't been on the end of that seat if he hadn't sat down next to me. We wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Because he introduced me to you guys when he got back to the UK, and we played together. Stan was later on, but played with Dan and Marco and Nick and Joe, and that was the original 5, and then Dan stopped playing, and then Stan came in, replaced Dan with Stan.
Yeah. That's the story of the cross-Atlantic special relationship, as they say. Or as they say in the UK, at least.
How you can have a podcast with people that you've never actually seen in person, but you've spent thousands of hours with online.
Yeah, the beauty of Dota 2, creating friendships, virtual friendships. Incredible. Yeah, we're really in the future. Yeah. If I ever tell people that I do a podcast and one of the people I do it with lives in Tennessee in America, they're like, what? How's that possible? I'm like, you know how Skype works, right? It's kind of the same, but you just record it.
Yeah, you don't even say Discord because it's boomers don't understand.
Yeah. Marco, you mentioned Frankfurt 2004 in these notes.
2014, yep.
2014, sorry, yeah, 2004, that really was a while back. This is the first event you went to? Would you say, how does this fit into like the hype of Dota?
I feel like this maybe was the first time I started really getting more into the pro scene and the esports side of it and the spectating side of it, and maybe appreciating that more. So this was Brother Joe, Guest Nick, Benj, and Guest Nick's brother, I think. So Frankfurt 2014. It was one of the... It was after TI3. I don't think there were that many tournaments. So it was held in Frankfurt's football stadium, which was a big pog. So just where the pitch should be was all the stairs.
This is before majors,
seats.
Right? Or was it a major?
Nah, before the majors. So
it was an ESL, just a big tourney.
Yeah, it was ESL, but definitely one of the first big tournaments, because it used to just be TI. A scene doesn't really exist. But then, okay, now we're holding a tournament in a football stadium. Wow, this is some credibility. But then it was such a sick tournament just from the games themselves. So exciting. Iconic first game of the weekend, Mao's esports throwback to that organization, playing a China stack, underdogs massively. But then you've got Misery, I think he used to play there, and making these massive plays on Axe, and the crowd just going wild. I don't think anyone's ever really, I mean, unless you went to TI, you wouldn't have been to a tournament before. So you're surrounded by all these passionate fans, such energy. The talent was just amazing. I had OGs like Red Eye and Malini and Malk, and even Seb was on the panel back then. Just such good value, such good fun, such good entertainment. Afterwards, there's an after party where all the fans are going and all the players are going, because the scene is still relatively small and tournaments don't happen, and pros aren't on a god tier yet. They're still just
pros aren't like
basement dwellers still.
Pros aren't like professional, like pampered individuals.
All that chic doesn't exist to the scenes, or it's just like raw love for the game. Everyone you bump into just super passionate, super hyped, and that like it would be at TI, say, but really kind of grassroots, but emerging into something really big. And I feel like, going to that and watching Dota live and being surrounded by Dota lovers just really just kept the fire burning, if not just made it burn even more. And then you start getting more interested in the spectator scene and teams and wanting the scene itself to grow and support the scene, etc. So that was definitely an iconic memory from the past in terms of life with Dota.
I remember when you went to that tournament and you showed me where it was being held, this football stadium. I was like, that was the first moment I was like, what? That's like, this Dota game's pretty insanely huge. I guess there are esports that are massive out there. Like, I don't know, was League of Legends big then? I don't even know. Actually don't know.
I'm not sure,
Maybe.
But it definitely felt like a landmark statement to go, here's this tournament, we're holding it in this professional football stadium, big capacity. Yeah, there was TI, but if you think about TI3, Benaroy, Hall or something like that, is a small venue, a very small venue. You think about the stage for that, like Frankfurt 14, way big stage, way bigger production than TI3 had. So yeah, it definitely felt very exciting.
And Adam, you're the only one here that's been to TI. So
yes.
TI, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, TI 4 and 5 back to back in Key Arena. His first time it was in Key Arena was TI 4. That's when it made the move, and it was pretty sick. Terrible tournament in terms of the meta, but followed it up with TI 5, which was the best TI because EG won.
Yeah.
A USA team won in the USA. It was great. It was. I loved those tournaments. They were so much fun. Just spend all day.
It's like a festival, isn't it? Festival of Dota.
Just a festival of Dota. In like a 20,000 person stadium, and it's like people are passionate. I mean, that's what it is. Just the passion that's around. Everyone's screaming. You have all the Chinese fans that travel en masse, no matter where. Because I've been to MLG Columbus, and that was speed gaming when they won, and there was just a mass of Chinese fans there too, cheering on DK, Team DK, and it was just they're super passionate. So it's like the back and forth, the C-Deck fans versus the EG fans, everyone yelling and screaming. It was so great. Yeah,
and TI really is quite important probably for Dota's development. I mean, a lot said about the international one, like $1 million, free to play, etc. That really put Dota on the map from day one, or Dota 2 on the map from day one, I should say. And I think a lot of people are drawn into the international. I know the first exposure to Dota I had was watching TI6, and I don't really think I took much of it on, but it was enough to make me think there's hype around this game, because TI is like the ultimate hype at the end of each year. And so I think a lot of people definitely get drawn in because of the international. So it's worth, acknowledging that too.
Yeah, you have to give massive credit and shout out to Valve for making that happen, because that definitely has been such a massive stimulus to the game. And say they never came along, you will have Dota 1 and it will have kept being developed. You would have a really solid community, but it would never hit the masses it has hit now. It would never have the competitive scene it does do now without Valve and all that. So you got to definitely give credit.
And what a kind of crazy, risky thing to do, to put $1 million for a tournament in 2011. No other games were putting anything near that. The biggest StarCraft 2 events were like 100k or something, it feels like. And suddenly there's $1 million on the line in Dota 2. It's kind of remarkable, really.
It is. It is definitely a big statement. How risky it is, just from kind of numbers point of view. Valve are a pretty big fat fucking company, so maybe it's really not that big of a risk to them, but the fact that they were willing to take it is cool. Yeah.
Another TI story, this for me, the first TI I watched properly was TI 7. I'd watched some tournaments. I'd watched particularly Kiev Major. Didn't really understand a lot because it was relatively near the start of me playing Dota, so I still wasn't even sure what all the spells were and stuff. But I remember watching Kiev Major, and VP were the massive favourites in that tournament. And it's funny looking back, because Kiev was when I started supporting OG, because I watched the grand finals, the full 5 games, and I, just being a Brit, I guess, just wanted to support the underdog for some reason. And also I'm a West Ham United fan, so I'm used to just underdogs. Always. So then I was getting behind OG massively to try and beat the juggernaut favourites VP, which is so funny because I feel like OG in their history have been, if we take out TI 8, which is kind of a crazy story, if you take out that, certainly in the majors, they've always been the favourite juggernaut team. So now I'm an OG fan who are the kind of juggernaut team of Dota. But it's funny because the reason I started supporting them is because they were the underdog in the tournament. Anyway,
got in at the
no
right
one
time.
believes you. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Yeah, no one believes me. But yeah, they did Phoenix Tree, and that was such a cool synergy for them. I was like, wow, this is pro players using, and I mean, when you think about it now, it's like Tree Phoenix, like, yeah, big brain. It's not exactly like some crazy synergy. Everyone knows it. But to my like new brain, I was like, oh my god, it's so cool. They egg and then they overgrowth and no one can hit the egg. Like, oh my god, it's so sick. Yeah, so that's just a funny thing that I remember that seems silly now, but at the time I like loved it. Another one was TI7. Me and a bunch of people, like the UK Dota people basically, watched it in
Nick's flat.
Nick's, yeah, I was gonna say guest Nick's flat, yeah. Which was super, super cool with these super late nights, because obviously America's like behind on time, so the games would be through our night. And I remember Team Liquid doing a draft with Huskar, Dazzle, and Broodmother. And I remember just being like, I don't know why I liked it so much. I think I'm like a sick person in my core. Genuinely, because I remember that, and I remember Brother Joe, who was like making food, peering round and being like, oh my god, what the fuck is that? That is disgusting, looking at this draft. And I was like, man, I hope they win. Because, I don't know, it's just something about the fact that you can cheese and win. You can play like macro and win. It's kind of a bit like StarCraft. I used to like it when people would just execute a perfect bunker rush, because it sort of shows the depth of the game. That kind of thing is possible even at the highest level. You can cheese and win. So that's another memory I have, like a TI memory in particular, that is just sticks out. Where do we stand? An hour? I mean, any final thoughts?
I love Dota.
Yeah, Dota's pretty good.
I mean, I could go on forever.
Yeah.
Just like talking about the game just like this. You know what I mean? So it's probably good to just cut it.
Or you could give closing thoughts. I don't know if you have any.
You know how... Do you guys have games that you still remember like 8 years later? Maybe not Stan, but like 3 years later? Like specific games when you first started playing?
I remember plays. I don't remember games.
Well, I just mean like... Yeah, I guess that would...
I remember moments, yeah.
Yeah, I remember playing Lycan for the first time, and I think it was because Lich was already picked or something. And I did not skill Wolves. And I remember getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But that was like my party stacked, and they're like, just don't skill Wolves, just get everything else, and we'll just do it.
Yeah. I actually remember making what I thought at the time was the sickest play of all time, and telling Marco about it, and him saying that's maybe the dumbest thing ever. And that play was me playing Meepo, and there's an enemy Shadow Fiend who's like popping off in the game a bit, and he's got a Shadow Blade, and it's classic low, trench pub Dota Shadow Blade SF trying to blow up heroes with Requiem. And I see Shadow Fiend pushing a lane, and I'm nearby, and I'm farming a camp, and I know that he sees me, because I know they have a ward. I probably literally saw them place it, because I think this was early days in Dota. I wouldn't have been thinking about that. So I know that he sees me, and he starts walking like he just goes out of vision. So I'm like, I know he's gone out of vision of the tower or the creep wave or whatever he was pushing. As soon as he's out of vision, he's going to Shadow Blade. He's going to come to me. He's going to try and Requiem and kill my Meepo. And I had Blink on my Meepo. So what I did was I stayed still on Meepo. I just stood still with my main Meepo. I sort of waited until I thought he might be using Requiem, like blowing up. And then I blinked. And then as I blinked, he used Requiem. So that's the entire play. And so I was like, oh man, I completely fucked that guy. He just used Requiem. I just blinked out. And then I remember telling Mark about it, and he'd been like, what are you doing? Like, you've literally put yourself at a massive risk of death for nothing. Just now he can't use Requiem for like 60 seconds or whatever. It's like, what was the point of that? And I was like, yeah, but it was like the sickest play ever. I dodged a blind Requiem. Yeah, that's quite a funny one that I remember.
One of my favourite plays in Dota is the BM plays of... Well, I remember one being I was playing Bat Rider, and there's an enemy hero on like one hit, and I've got Firefly, and I did this Firefly circle around him so he couldn't escape. That felt quite good.
Yeah. I mean, a classic play is me chronoing Adam's Luna. I mean, that's a classic play.
Don't let Stan play Rubik and steal Chronosphere.
Yeah. Well, I remember that as well because I was like, the innocence of it, not realizing that Void can move in Rubik's Chronos. I mean, that's a mistake you make once.
I've looked at my first account now. I found it. I'm looking at the Dota buff.
Lich flying at the top of the plate.
39 matches on Lich.
Okay.
61% win rate. Even back then, that was
strong.
The heroes that I liked back then, I liked Keeper of the Light and Nyx Assassin and Darkseer. Who picks Darkseer? It's like, I really am going to play that hero a lot.
Yeah, it's funny the heroes that you end up playing. I had literally no interest in Pit Lord, and then it just became like my signature hero for just because I won, and I was like, well, I guess I'll play it until I lose.
Yeah,
and then just
Nature's Prophet. I played that back when cliff jungling was a thing. So you would just get teleport level 1 and go on top of the cliffs and just hit the hard camp.
Yeah.
My very first game on my first Dota 2 account was Pudge. Classic. Pudge Wars custom game in Dota 1 was very strong. That's a definite throwback.
My final thought as well would be another thing that we haven't mentioned, just in terms of why Dota is such a popular game. I do think for us less so. Well, I don't know actually. But for a lot of people, like, the cosmetic aspect of Dota is pretty strong. A lot of people do really like skins. And I think Dota does it really well. Certainly when you compare it to StarCraft 2, there's no skins. There's no microtransactions in the game at all to make your heroes look cooler. And
they started that about 6 years too late.
Yeah, I know, yeah. And Dota visually Dota 2 especially visually is like such a stunning game. Its graphic design is just gorgeous, really. When you compare it to League of Legends, I mean, it's not even close.
League looks gash. It's so gash. And honestly, the Dota spells are majestic.
The sound design is just perfect. Every sound is, you know what every spell is just from the sound of it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's like those memes where it's like, I don't know how they word it, but it's like signs you can see or something. Or signs you can hear, or pictures you can hear, and it'll be a picture of a spell, like Echo Slam or something. And it's like, or like the classic one is the game popping, you know, when a game pops, that's the spell, that's the picture you can hear for sure. That's episode 80 then. Back with some more normal episodes for 81 onwards. We do, of course, have 2 Immortals now, so we really need to pump out the educational content with our newfound credibility. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, trying to get some positivity, some good times out into the Dotaverse. But until next time, have a final whistle.